how to sell like it is nobody's business. Okay, so this video is going to go over the Socratic method of selling. The only reason I'm actually making this content is to retain information myself. It's a practice that I just want to start doing where, if you learn something, the best way to retain it is actually to teach others. So the Socratic method of sales. I thought this was a very, very interesting book to start with, just because of kind of a revelation that I've been going through over the past 6 months. So two years ago, right? 2 years ago, up until about February of 2020, I was selling leads to local businesses, right? Facebook ads, you get the kind of basic lead, you run those ads and you sell them to the local business. And it always felt like the conversation was driven by a predetermined set of questions. So, you hop into any kind of sales course, they give you questions that you should ask your buyer, and then you kind of try to make them admit to you that they have a problem and all this shit, right? And every time I would use that way of selling, it felt super just awkward and staged, and the person just kind of felt like, is that the only thing like you want out of me? You don't even really understand my situation. And it wasn't until about February of 2020 that I switched the dialogue, because I switched from selling leads to selling content, which was something for some reason I had never thought to do. But if, my background is content creation since I was 2013, I was making content. And so when I entered that new thing of selling, I genuinely had to ask them questions for me to know as a content creator if I could, I needed to find out what they were wanting and then just figure out if I could, do it, if I could sell them that. So my way of thinking completely switched, and it wasn't anything like I didn't know it was happening. I'd probably say from 2018 to like 2020, my total sales for leads was probably around like $10,000, whatever. So $5,000 over the course of 2 years. But since switching to this method, you can see here that the goal is to close this much in business, and up until February, this much in business has been closed just on content alone. Honestly, I could attribute that 100% just to switching to this model without me knowing it. So when I found this book, Socratic Selling, it literally was like, okay, this is what I've been doing the whole time. Now it's kind of, putting it into action. So how do most people sell? They sell like that. They sell like they already know what the customer wants, and they kind of ask them a predetermined set of questions to get them to that sale, right? So what is the Socratic method? The Socratic method is a method of teaching or discussion used by Socrates, right? Where one asks a series of easily answered questions that inevitably lead an answer to a logical conclusion, right? So essentially all this method is that you are going off of what they are saying, asking them questions, and by them answering those questions, it's like, oh, maybe I should do that. The main 3 principles that we are getting out of this book is, number 1, principle 1, respect the customer. Now, this might sound like wishy-washy or whatever, and like, what the hell does that mean, respect the customer? But you have to come at it from this perspective, right? When you are entering a sales conversation, your viewpoint of the world is irrelevant to them, right? You need to understand that their viewpoint, their values and preconceptions of the world are their values and their preconceptions of the world, and you can't change that. You can only respect that and work within the model of that realm, right? So don't try to change that, right? Work within that. The second principle here is you want to help the customer think. So the way you go about doing that is by asking easily answered questions, and you make them come to decisions on their own. You got to help the customer think. You want the person to, by the end of the conversation, the dialogue that you're having with them, they have a new set of ideas and principles and ideas that wasn't in their belt before. And the last principle here, principle 3, you want to help the customer make decisions. Now, what the hell does that mean, right? we want to help the customer make decisions. So typically, you'll go through a whole sale, and at the end, you'll just be like, so, does this look good? You wanna buy? They're not just like teeter or tottering over this yes or no, maybe I agree with this. You're helping them say like, yes, I agree with that, I agree with that, I agree with that, therefore I have to agree with your product, right? And we'll get into some specific examples. So what shapes the conversation? If you're using all of these principles together, you're respecting the customer's view, you're helping them think by asking easily answered questions, and you're helping them make decisions, what the heck is shaping the conversation? Do I come in with a script, or what the heck am I doing? Well, the whole method here, the point that I'm trying to get across, is that the dialogue should be shaped by the answers given to your questions. If someone tells me in a sales conversation that I really hate this person's type of videos, and I really love these people's types of videos, me as a person, not only trying to sell them, but me trying to form a long-term relationship with that person, if I'm going to be working with them long-term, I really need to know why the heck they hate this thing and why they love this thing. And by them just saying that, it doesn't give me any context, so I need to ask them, like, hey, what do you hate about this video? Okay, is it because of this, this, and this? What do you love about this video? Is it because of this, 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 and this? Right? And that's shaping the conversation. You're digging. You're digging, doing a hell of a lot of digging. Where we're trying to get to in any sale. Anytime you are conducting a sale, really all you are doing is you're taking them from a point A and getting them to a point B. Like I said, your current state is your A, and your ideal state is your B. That whole conversation is just shaped through the problems that they are facing, trying to get from that point A to B, and the solutions that you are bringing to the table to solve those problems by asking easily answered questions. As an example, all the time, I'll have people in my sales conversations about content, they'll say something along the lines of, I have the problem where I look super robotic on camera and I don't know how to talk to a camera, Ethan. Like it's terrible. I don't know what to do. So I'll let them bring out that problem, and then I will give them the solution by, again, asking them a series of easily answered questions. So I say, have you ever tried filming a video like this before? And they'll say, well, no, I've never tried that. And I said, well, this is a guy who's making that type of video. What do you think of that video? And they're like, oh, it's not very robotic, it's very staged. And I say, how do you think that they filmed that video? Oh, well, he did this, this, and that. Well, and then I'll ask them, like, do you think that achieves the non-robotic stage look? And they'll say, yeah, I think that achieves what I'm trying to get to. And I'll be like, awesome, we can facilitate for that for you, and we could do that for you, right? And that's just proposing the solution. When you are trying to go deeper into their problems or deeper into their solutions. Now, all of this is irrelevant if you don't dig deeper into the problems, into the solutions that they're trying to get. If you just take everything that they say at face value, chances are they're not going to, one, trust you, but two, buy from you. At the end of the day, we're trying to get these people to buy from us. They're not going to buy from you. So how can we get deeper into their problems and solutions? Well, we use things, according to the Socratic Method, called probes. So what probes are we are essentially getting them to talk more about their problem and solution. So anytime you're talking about a solution, so in that case, the example I just mentioned about making non-robotic staged content, I'll ask them, why is that important to you? And they'll say, well, that's important to me for X, Y, and Z. Hey, I sense that means a lot to you, right? It's like, oh yeah, then that means a ton to me. If I did this, it would make me get this, 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 and that. Like, what will this change for you? It's like, well, Ethan, if I can make non-robotic content, then, I'm going to be freaking king of the world, this, that, and that. And again, they're feeling good. They're feeling excited. If you could only take one thing away from these videos, well, two things actually. If you could only take two things away from the Socratic Method, this whole book, and two things that, for me, again, that I need to take away from this is that, number one, the customer needs to know you understand, right? All of this is irrelevant if they don't know that you understand. How do we communicate that we understand, right? It's very easily, you very easily accomplish this by paraphrasing what they're saying back to them, right? And you can't really cheat this another way. Like, you actually have to be listening and saying back to them the problem. And so if they say, Ethan, I look super robotic and staged on camera, how do I fix this? And I say, let me just get this straight. You're feeling like you look super robotic and staged on camera, right? They'll either say, yep, you got it, or they'll say, yeah, I look super robotic staged on camera, and, I hate, just being in front of a camera. And then I reconfirm, okay, so you don't like being on camera, and you don't feel like you look good. And they're like, yeah, you understand, you've got it. And now they understand that you understand. And as soon as that happens, you gain their trust. They feel like they know you better. And that's a whole, it's a psychological thing that they just feel like not only are you listening, but they know you more as a person because you know them and you know their problems. So you really need to keep in mind that they need to know you understand. Okay, so that's number one. Number two here is that you haven't listened until you demonstrate you have, which again is just relays back to this first point here. You need to demonstrate that you listen. Just writing things down for later to pitch them isn't the same as what I just mentioned, repeating back to them their problems and repeating back to them where they're trying to get to. You need to reinforce that constantly throughout the meeting. And yeah, that's kind of my biggest takeaways from this book. So going into any other meetings, I think the biggest thing I'm going to take away from this is just making sure that I know their problems and letting them know that I know that. And just being straightforward with them, right? So yeah, hopefully this was helpful, and if it was, leave a like, and appreciate it. Cheers.